Today's episode of Star Trek, Loud as a Whisper. And not only will I be talking about my thoughts on the episode, but I'll also be translating for Alex as well. Alex, what did you think of Loud as a Whisper? It sucked.
We are all in this together.
A deaf mediator hopes to bring peace to a war-torn planet.
No, never, never!
But a sudden attack kills all of his translators,
Beam us up now!
destroying any chance of a ceasefire.
We need you!
On Star Trek, The Next Generation.
No, but I don't think it sucked. I liked the idea of the episode. You guys always walk back your opinions.
I just don't like throwing. I mean, unless it's like absolutely just like god awful. Like I hate just throwing down just the label of it was terrible or
Yeah.
yes, it's very slow. But I don't think it's a huge detriment to the episode. It's just like the pacing.
It's absolutely the slowest paced episode of the series thus far. This felt like an hour plus long episode. It's obviously not. It's the same as all the other ones, 44 minutes. But I think the reason it felt so long is because we're getting to know this brand new character who also can't speak. The setup of it in itself kind of leans towards a slower pace. And when we're having a side character episode of someone on the Enterprise, you're inherently more interested because it's like I already know and like this character, or at the very least know this character, and interested to get to know more about him. To introduce a guest character and then make it kind of like a character focused episode, but it's about this guest that's not going to be back, I think that affected the pace of it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only fun part of that is when he finally gets up on the ship is just seeing him interact with everyone else.
Yeah.
To where he gets to have that nice scene with Geordi because they're both the same in their own way. Like one with hearing, one with sight. So it does create nice moments for that. But yeah, man, it just drags.
This could have really benefited from an A-B storyline because there's not much of a B plot here. I think it's basically just this the whole time. It
Yeah.
felt kind of TOS-esque in that way, where it was like, this is the story, and I was thinking, okay, I'm interested in this story, but how much can they really do with it? How long can they make it last? And I think just having a small B story could have helped it. They had like one scene, which was Geordi and his whole vision scenario, but that it was one scene, so it wasn't like a full B story.
Maybe Riker, give him something for God's sake.
Well-
It's getting a bit ridiculous.
But I think it's a natural setup for Geordi because they already have that scene in there, and they have the scene with Geordi where they appreciate how he's unique, just like how they're unique in their different ways. It could have gone from that scene to Geordi then going to approach the Doctor about his vision. Just a little bit more setup instead of this one random scene in the episode, which I guess maybe could come back at a later point. They could address it again about being able to replicate eyes for him, even though it's a risky procedure.
And with the help of the replicator, fashion normal eyes. You would see like everyone else.
Wait a minute, I was told that wasn't possible.
I think they could have put a little bit more into that and taken away a little bit from this kind of drawn out story. The opening scene of the episode was quite a long one, and the hook wasn't anything super strong for being a really long opening scene.
No, the hook before the credits is that no one's in this house, which has really nothing to do with the rest of the episode, because shortly thereafter, like, he reveals himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, they just come out. Yeah.
It's like, oh hey, you're here. You beamed right into my home. Thanks for knocking.
Yeah. And at first, this chorus of people comes out and they're all speaking, and it takes you a minute to realize they're actually all speaking, translating for Riva.
Then, although you already know my feelings towards you, allow me to put them into words. I am looking forward to this journey.
3 separate people. They each say like their own roles that they have for him. And I instantly, once they revealed that, was like, wow, this is actually a really cool idea. Even just as like a recurring character for a show, or even if it was like a main character on a show, not the protagonist per se, but just like one of the crew, that could be an interesting idea, even though you essentially have to cast 4 people for one role.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay the guy that doesn't talk as much. Well, you're paying 3 other people to talk, so
Yeah.
Could get expensive. That's definitely like it's definitely an interesting idea. I find that very fascinating. It's like instead of learning sign language like many other species or whatever the world did, this species just was able to figure out communicating via these other species.
And I loved that the chorus wasn't just like, oh yeah, we all just have telepathic powers to anybody. They had to like build this communication with him specifically, and it was something that went back generations of their family. He's like, their ancestors were the chorus for my ancestors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really well fleshed out idea.
Yeah. My only issue with it, I mean, we'll get into it, is like why he got so mad.
Remarkable. And so the three of you...
me!
What?
Was that just like a misdirect? He gets angry there. He says he's never been unable to resolve a conflict. So it's like, oh, do you think that was like a little misdirection? Like, oh, it's gonna be he threatens to kill these people if they don't, resolve each other. And then it's like,
That's definitely what I was thinking they were getting at, and it does end up going that way. And then we get to the surprise, which was really interesting. But I also picked up on something small in the next scene. So they beam back up to the Enterprise.
And you don't resent it?
No, since they're both a part of me and I really like who I am, there's no reason for me to resent either one.
And I thought it was really interesting how the chorus asked him that, because it almost made me think like, oh, I wonder if Riva resents that he can't speak and that he's deaf and has to use this chorus. It set up their whole relationship very, interesting, which pays off later with the events of what happened.
yeah, good point. We should bring up the dude, by the way. Just say his name, Howie Seago, who is an actual deaf actor, producer, director. Has been deaf from birth. He's been working for like more than 20 years. So yeah, credit to him because he was great.
And also credit to the people making the show to actually go cast a deaf actor.
Woke garbage.
Perhaps we could dine together and compare experiences.
I'd like that.
Should we talk about the possible Troy love interest? Because I feel like it's almost a recurring theme with guest characters, where it's like there's always something with Troy.
Yeah, especially male guest characters.
Yeah. It's like, now, do you think it was an actual love interest, or do you think it's like, oh, you're the only one who gets me besides these three people I know?
We both know how to express important words.
They do say in the beginning when they first beam down, they point out, they're like, you're empathic. Like, they point that out in her. So that was part of it, but also Tasha's dead and Dr. Crusher is gone. So unless you count Dr. Pulaski, Counselor Troy is the only woman left at the moment. So if they're going to do that story with anyone, it kind of has to be her.
Riker doesn't even care anymore.
Yeah, almost completely dropped. But the scene with them at that dinner date, per se, I thought was actually pretty nice. And then he shows her that he can do the sign language and talks about how he built the communication with this chorus. So it was all good stuff. Again, it was just for like this guest character that's only here for this episode. So my how much I care is like limited, but it was still interesting information.
I'd really have to go back to the beginning, see exactly what the chorus said and what they represent, and probably watch the episode again to see like if they stuck to that. You know what I'm saying?
I think that they did, because I mean you had the Lust guy who obviously played his role.
If it is not inconvenient, Counselor Troy could escort me with your permission.
And then you had more of the kind of like analytical negotiator guy who spoke whenever they were just like delivering information.
But we both know that is not the case. The basis for peace must also be personal.
And then the woman who was supposed to be like the wisdom one, and she spoke up in like, more general conversation moments.
Thank you for your time and effort. If you will excuse me.
I bought into it. I think they did a good job with it. And so speaking of that, he's a master negotiator, and they bring him because he has to settle a dispute on a planet with these two warring tribes. I thought their makeup was okay. It wasn't just a thing on their nose. They had some nice face makeup.
Yeah. I mean, they do end up showing him in person, because I was afraid because they just had like the static on the view screen. I'm like, did they not have confident confident ability to show this off fully. So I thought that was strange. But then they do fully show him. Like, oh, it looks fine.
So then they go down to the planet to do this negotiation. But right away, one of the members of one of the tribes is not, it's a trick. He's not here to negotiate, and he goes to kill the negotiator, Riva, but I think it's Riker that moves Riva out of the way, and all three of the chorus get killed in brutal fashion, all melting from the phaser.
Death first! Riva! Death!
Yeah, one shot like someone dying in Doom or something, where it's like they go like slowly, like full body, and then down like the red, and then to the skeleton. It's like, oh my God. Loved it.
Yeah, so the guy that kills the chorus, his partner or the person in his tribe kills him. He's like, traitor, and kills him. I thought that was a great twist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Such a long build up to that too, where it's like send down some torches, send down some tables, and he's like painstakingly going through what they're going to do and explaining like the history, like they've been warring for so long they don't even know like why they are.
At this point, because of the slow pacing and everything, if that scene had not have gone well or was not exciting like it was, I could have gotten like kind of checked out of the episode. But that exciting twist brought me back in to where I'm like, okay, now I'm excited. I'm interested to see how this last 20 minutes goes. So it was a nice kind of twist of the story to bring you back in. And then when they go back, now Riva is like dealing with a whole bunch of emotions because now he's disappointed in what happened. He's also missing this chorus. He's grown up with his whole life and he shows emotion about that. And he doesn't want to do the negotiation anymore because he no longer trusts this species.
Please take me back to Ramatis.
I think they added enough layers to make the rest of the episode interesting, although it did, kind of start to feel kind of dragged out there in the end.
Increase?
We have Data learn sign language because there's been plenty of examples in this show where it's just. I just wish it was like more established that like he was doing sign language when he was talking to Troy, because I thought he was just like obviously like not like actual sign language, but like saying like the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not actual,
And I don't know sign language, so I don't know when he was doing that. Is it real like American Sign Language like we have right now, or was it like this made up thing? Because if it was like a made up sign language, it would have been hard to convey to us that he's actually doing sign language. Like someone who knows sign language would point it out right away. Oh, that's real or it's not real. I just don't know that. But yeah, I love shots like that. It's like becoming a recurring thing of like Data learning something and it going really fast and him like, it happened in the comedy episode and then here. So it was like the perfect choice, I think, for sure. And it also just made it easier so that this guy didn't have to do just sign language the rest of the episode. Data could translate for him. And I also really loved the line where he's like, Data's a fine machine, but he can't display my emotions like I had with my chorus. I really bought into that and I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah. And just like everything leads to poor Data. You know what I mean? He just wants to be a real boy, but he can't. And once again, credit to Howie Seago, right? That's his name. And just like he is like a deaf actor. He's a deaf person, but everything he conveys, and with the chorus talking behind him, or him just showing his frustration without not being able to communicate, like everything's being like told there.
Yeah, for sure. And then as we get to the end of the episode, he doesn't want to do the negotiation, but they finally convince him to turn the disadvantage into an advantage and convince him to go down. And he decides he's going to teach them sign language because starting at this kind of neutral ground where they both don't know it and have to learn with him will make them bond and be able to communicate with each other. Do I think that's realistic? Probably not. No, like he's going to spend months and force them to do this, and he's not going to have a translator with him, so he literally can't speak. It seems like a bit of a stretch, but thematically, it made sense. But I just don't know if I buy it.
Yeah, just for like his own ailment, but it's like these two species, I think they both spoke the same language. They both spoke English, so it's like, and it's like they have been fighting. They do want to like come to peace, but I think they're still an angry it's like, I'm not learning all this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thank you for everything.
We get the little scene at the end where Picard basically just tells Troy, hey, good job. And it's not like needed, but it's a nice little scene.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
But I just wanted to say the words, thank you. Well done.
I enjoyed it. Don't really have much desire to ever watch it again. Don't know if it'll like make a list or anything like that, but it definitely fell into what I would describe as like, this is a Star Trek story. You know what I mean? Like the idea is interesting. I love the diplomatic stuff. There's good character stuff, but like the whole thing overall is like, I'll remember it for this one thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the guy who couldn't talk and he had a chorus of people. Like, I'll remember that.
Yeah, this will definitely fall into the category, I think, of classic Star Trek bad episodes where it's like not really much more memorable. Or, the blind guy with three people who talk for him.
Deaf guy, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, well, let's jump into our patron takes. I'm actually very interested for this one, for our patron takes. This is where our patrons over on Patreon let us know what they thought of the episode, predict how we're going to feel about it, ask us questions, etc. And we read them for the first time right now. So we only get to read a few, but there's a whole bunch of them over on Patreon. You can go sign up to join in on that. And honestly, I could see it going either way. I could see them hating it, or I could see them thinking that we're going to hate it because they think that we're going to think it's boring. So I'm really excited.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, I got one. This one's from James. You will probably laugh out loud at how lame the pre-title cliffhanger is. I don't know if we laughed out loud, but we were definitely like, oh, that's it.
Oh, loud as a whisper. Okay. I'm terrible with titles of episodes, so just like the first 2 minutes of any Star Trek episode leaves my brain right away. This one's from Data Droid. I had totally forgotten about this episode. Howie Seago did an amazing job. He really impressed me with his acting skills when he couldn't even hear the others. His timing and facial expressions were spot on. It's a good point. Although, which is weird because he's actually deaf when he turned when they walked in. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, when he says Riva, and you were like, he's deaf. He's not supposed to.
And the thing is, he's actually deaf in real life.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm sure they had some type of cues, like acting cues.
Maybe peripheral. I don't know.
Yeah,
but...
maybe. But the camera shot definitely made it look like he was looking straight out the window. Yeah.
And for a second, I'm like, oh, he's not actually deaf. But it's like, oh, wait, he is deaf in real life. That's crazy. This one's from Narn, man. I like Riva's charisma and determination to get things done. I believe Worf would admire his bravery. Then Yovit responds, especially getting Troy done. Lol. Jesus Christ. This one's from Anthony. Fun, in parentheses, question mark, fact. The three members of the chorus correspond to Sigmund Freud's concept of the id, the scholar/artist, ego, the warrior Adonis, and superego, the woman.
Okay, I know nothing about Sigmund Freud except for the weird parent stuff, so.
Yeah, apparently there's a movie out with, oh God, Anthony played...
Anthony Mackie?
No. Hopkins, Anthony Hopkins.
Okay. Yeah, it's
not exactly.
A bit different.
Yeah, a bit different. I was going to say, oh, he was Odin and Thor. I'm like, I'm not going to refer to the great
Anthony Hopkins to that role.
Yeah, to that role, yeah.
Yeah, you should have said the right. All right. This one is from Viking Dad. 7. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Oh, that is rating?
Apparently, yeah, just 7.
Yeah, this is one where it's like, after you finish it, you're like, Then you start thinking about it. It's like, oh, well, I put that around 5 to 7, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it was good. Wasn't great. Fair enough.